Hey, everybody, I'm your host, as always, Rick Wilson here on the Lincoln Project podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in, as always. We've got a great doubleheader show today, and it's a crazy statistic that there is not one, but two Lincoln Project alumni running for Congress this year. Now, there are rumors that I'm running for Congress in Florida's CD2. I am not. I have a candidate there I'm supporting already, but I appreciate the attention. Thank you for the kind wishes, but that is not in the cards. I've got other work to do to help save democracy across the board, so I will not be making a run for Congress this year. I'm supporting Nick Soteslo down there. He is a terrific candidate, Florida CD2. Check him out. But in the meantime, we have got two Lincoln Project greats, co-founder George Conway and our former executive director and former director of our veterans operation, Fred Wellman. George is running in New York, and Fred is running in the great state of Missouri. I am delighted to have both of them on the show today, and I think you will enjoy it. Let's get right to it.
Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened.
There is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America.
Good night, and good luck.
Well, folks, welcome back to the Lincoln Project podcast. I am absolutely delighted to bring you our good friend, of Lincoln Project co-founder, and now a candidate for Congress from the great city of New York. It is George Conway, the one,
Hello, Rick.
the only, the man who has been a thorn in Donald Trump's side as long as I have, and in some ways even more viciously. And I am thrilled.
That's not possible, Rick. That's
well,
not
I don't
possible.
know. I'm a generous host.
You are indeed modest.
George Conway is with us, and folks, he is running for the 12th Congressional District in the great city of New York, in the great state of New York. As Jerry Nadler has decided he is done with Congress, this seat is open, and George has jumped into this race with both feet, and he's running on a platform that I think a lot of folks understand very clearly. It's to hold this president and this administration accountable and to get us back to a place where we are not governed by madmen. George, welcome to the Lincoln Project podcast. As always, my friend, talk to us about the race.
I mean, that you basically summarized it. That's my theory. That's my platform. And I think, I obviously think it's going to resonate here in New York. I think it would resonate other places. But I also think it's sort of important, even in New York, there are people who kind of don't quite get it, even though they hate Trump and they despise Trump and they absolutely say, yeah, we're happy that you're against Trump. But they're saying, well, but we can't do, there's a sort of learned helplessness, even in New York, where it's like, well, we can't do anything about Trump, but we can, we just have to worry about our local concerns and wait them out. And, we have a nice city, or we have a nice life here. I mean, we can make things more affordable. We can do all of these things. And I agree. Like, yeah, there are obviously things that we can do from a local standpoint to make things better. But the problem is you can't really do a lot of that stuff until he's gone. Perfect example. I was just like, I'm here in my building in West Chelsea, and I'm just looking out the balcony. There's this project called the Gateway Project that's right out my window. It's the, see those train yards right there? Those are the LIR train rides, train yards. And one of the things that's happening is they're building a tunnel. You can kind of see it down here. There's the tunnel.
Right.
That's going to be the new Amtrak tunnel.
But Trump had a little hissy fit over
Trump, right? Because, this is a state that doesn't like him, a city that doesn't like him, and he's cutting the funding for that illegally.
Yes.
And it's, it's a multi-billion-dollar, multi-year project, tens of thousands of jobs. But it doesn't just affect New York City; it affects New Jersey.
Sure.
It affects the entire Northeast corridor. It's like, this is exactly the kind of infrastructure project we need in America.
Yep.
And we certainly need it in the most densely populated place of the city, in the country, in the most heavily traveled corridor in the country. And he's cutting it off. Why?
spite.
Retribution.
Yeah.
Spite and retribution.
Work on the nation's biggest transportation effort, known as the Gateway Tunnel Project, is grinding to a halt, with hundreds of construction workers facing layoffs due to an indefinite suspension in federal funding by the Trump administration. The $16 billion project is intended to create a critical new set of rail tunnels under the Hudson River connecting New York and New Jersey. The funds were approved under President Biden and were frozen by President Trump in October. Nationally, shutting this project down would cause a $16 billion hit to the country's economy over a 4-year period, according to the Regional Plan Association. It could also cause a loss of $7 billion in taxes to federal, state, and local governments. New Jersey officials and union workers spoke about the impact of that action earlier today.
This project is a stretch of train that isn't just vital for New York and New Jersey, it is vital for the entire northeastern corridor, the busiest rail stretch in all of North America. This is all being put on the line now by a president, it seems, to just want things named after him.
The president asked Senator Chuck Schumer to consider a deal to rename Penn Station in New York City and Dulles Airport right outside of Washington here in his name, and then he would unfreeze that $16 billion.
And is a perfect example. He's done it with healthcare. He's doing it with ICE, which isn't really an immigration enforcement. He's doing it with everything. He's basically running the government like a mob operation.
Right.
Pay me, come to me, give
Right.
me your voter rolls, give me your money, give me your, he's doing it to foreign countries and he's doing it to Americans. And first of all, it's completely violative of his oath of office. It's completely unlawful. It's criminal. But it really, you can't separate it from how it hurts people.
Right.
And that's whether it's the people in Minnesota or the people who are working in that job down there, you cannot separate out his corruption and criminality from the well-being of the people whose well-being he's supposed to provide for.
George, I think that's such a good point, because a lot of people are like, oh, Trump is just crazy, and it hurts us in a meta kind of way, but it really doesn't. It drills down. I mean, I was recording something a little earlier about these farmers who are losing everything across the country.
Correct.
We worry about drought. We worry about pricing. We worry about equipment. We worry about financing. This tariff is just another thing that we have to worry about.
Todd Western III is a soybean farmer in Waterloo, Iowa. He says trade tensions between the U.S. and China are fueling uncertainty for his business. China, the world's largest buyer of soybeans, hasn't pre-purchased any soybeans for the upcoming U.S. harvest.
The revenue on our farm is just like any other farm. It's volatile.
Western and other farmers like him are also concerned tariffs will drive up costs. Current rates will mean higher prices for items ranging from fertilizers to farm equipment to tractors.
We do this for the legacy of the farm, and so it's a labor of love.
Todd Western III is a 6th-generation farmer who grows corn and soybeans across more than 200 acres of land on 2 separate farms.
Our farm was established in 1864. They traveled their way out of slavery and settled in Iowa.
Despite a strong planting season, the price of soybeans nationally has taken a hit. One factor, due to the ongoing trade dispute, the Chinese government has instructed its importers to avoid purchasing U.S. soybeans.
Our major export commodity, our number one agricultural commodity, is soybeans.
China imports an average of 61% of the world's traded soybeans, including over a fifth of U.S. exports.
It's the same story. There's probably thousands of construction jobs that are now screwed in Jersey and New York City.
Absolutely.
Union guys, no doubt.
Right.
And he just doesn't see past the hatreds of the moment. And so
But it's not just that he doesn't see past the hatreds of the moment. He doesn't give a fuck about anybody but himself and the people who help him.
Correct. So you've got a very good possibility this fall that Democrats are going to sweep the House, and increasingly, because of what Trump is doing, he's handing the Democrats this election a little more every day. What committees do you want to serve on in Congress when you make it to DC, in order to start holding him accountable? And what does that look like when you're there?
Look, obviously the House Judiciary Committee, Government Reform and Oversight, the 2 committees that are most likely to conduct investigations into the corruption and illegality, and also to conduct impeachment hearings, because the whole crew has to go. The whole crew has to go. And, even if people say, well, we don't, again, it's the learned helpless. Says, well, who knows? We have the votes. We may need Republican votes and all that stuff. It's like, you can't wait till you have the votes. You have to make the case. And you have to make the case to the public, and you have to put pressure on him, and you have to put pressure on the shameless, craven cowards who stand up for him no matter what.
Right.
The Susan Collinses of the world, and you know, the people, you know, and look, if it fails, at least you try. But it's not going to fail because we've made this a self-fulfilling prophecy that he can get away with whatever he wants.
Right.
And we can't do anything about it. Again, the learned helplessness. We all have to fight. And it's a combined, you know, it's a combined arms effort, if you will. It's got to be, we need lawyers like me who are aggressive and are not afraid of Trump in Congress to prosecute the case, to prosecute on the floor of the Senate if there's an impeachment trial, when there's an impeachment trial. We need people out on the streets, and it all has to be a unified effort together. And we have to see, you know, we have to see electeds out on the streets at the No Kings rallies. It's everything. We have to get to that point where, you know, change can happen, and so comparative political scholars of comparative politics say basically you need 3.5% of the population in a democracy that is undergoing stress to make real change.
I think
we can get there.
I think
he's
we can
going to
get there.
make us there. Yeah, and that's what this is all about. And it requires a multi-front war, and it requires basically saying the guy's a fascist, he's a criminal, he has committed multiple high crimes and misdemeanors. And the one thing that the framers of the Constitution gave us ultimately as a protection was it gave Congress the power to impeach and remove criminals.
And no matter how hard it is,
correct.
If you let a criminal get away with it,
right?
You know, and I always go back to this. You know, even Nixon had the dignity,
right,
to leave. Even Nixon had the dignity to go, and he was probably the most monomaniacal president before Trump in our lifetimes.
Correct.
In that kind of way. You know, sheets don't usually fail all at once. It's sort of the small things. The corners won't stay put. The fabric starts to feel thin and scratchy. They're either warmer or colder than they ought to be. They're starting to look a little tired, a little gray, a little grainy. Not great. You don't always realize how bad they are until, you know, you finally have to replace them. So if your sheets are starting to pile or thin or gets unpleasant, that's a sign to upgrade to Boll & Branch. Boll & Branch's signature sheets are made from 100% organic cotton, and they hold their shape. They stay breathable. They feel luxurious every night. We love our Boll & Branch sheets. You know, we were Boll & Branch customers before Boll & Branch was a sponsor of this show. You'll find that with Boll & Branch sheets, you'll fall asleep faster. You'll be comfortable night after night, and you'll actually notice the difference the moment you get into bed. Boll & Branch sheets don't wear out. They get softer with every wash. Made from 100% organic cotton, top quality cotton. They instantly make your bed more comfortable, more breathable, more inviting. Boll & Branch is a one-time upgrade that pays off every single night. No setup, no habit building, no guesswork, just better sleep every night. You know, we've reached the age where a full night's sleep is a real thing now. And Renee and I try to get a good 8 hours every night, and it has made a phenomenal difference in my life, in my thinking, in my writing, in my quality of life, in my health. And I got to be honest, Boll & Branch has been a part of that. They will help you get that full night of sleep that can become so important as you get to a certain age. And I am a certain age. Compared to our old bedding, it is just an order of magnitude difference. You will absolutely love your Boll & Branch sheets. Sleep sound with Boll & Branch. Get 15% off your first order plus free shipping at bollandbranch.com/Lincoln with code Lincoln. That's Boll & Branch, BOLLAND, branch.com/Lincoln, code Lincoln to unlock 15% off. Exclusions apply. But I mean, George, one of the other things that you and I've talked about this, and you and I've talked about this since 2014 or so, this guy is not healthy. This guy is not well mentally. And the dangers to the country, I would argue, are mounting very quickly, which is why I think this because of his mental illnesses, I think this argument of starting to take out his enablers by impeachment, pressure, removal, etc., is a powerful one, because right now no one says no to this guy in the White House.
Correct. Right. And we have to show people that there are consequences for supporting him. Right. That he is leading them over the cliff. And I think we have to show that on multiple levels. We have to show that to the people out in Iowa who are just on their farms. We have to show it
Yep.
to the mid-level politicians throughout the country, like that gubernatorial candidate in Minnesota who realized, I can't run
Yeah,
as a
right.
Republican.
Yeah.
I can't run. There's no way anybody with the R next to his name can win with what's happened in Minnesota. And we have to do that with, the Susan Collinses and the and all all of these Republican senators who deep down they know better, but they're afraid. And that's it has to be a full-on, no holds barred,
Right.
legal and political challenge. And you can't just say, we're just going to wait him out. We don't
have 3 years to
the
wait him out.
time.
No.
He's the amount of destruction that he has done in 1 year and 9 days is almost catastrophic. It is catastrophic as it is. And we don't have 3 years. We may not even have till the midterms. I mean, he's going to try to fuck with the midterms.
You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, they'll find a reason to impeach me. I'll get impeached. We don't impeach them. You know why? Because they're meaner than we are.
I think that's right. I think that the stuff down in Fulton County, Georgia this week was exactly a pregame warm-up.
Right.
It's Sidney Powell's bat. They're going to screw with the midterms.
Yeah. Tulsi Gabbard is down there. National. What the actual, and the whole bit in Minnesota where Pam Bondi sends a letter to I guess it was the governor,
Right.
saying, hey, maybe we'll pull back the brown shirts, the
Right, if you
ICE
give us
brown
your
shirts,
voter files.
if you give us your voter rolls. What the hell does that have to do with anything, let alone immigration enforcement?
Last time I checked, and I'm not an attorney, but states control their election process, and this idea that there's some sort
that
of
was kind of a federalist kind of thing.
kind of one of those early and often federalist principles. But I find it shocking that people have that learned helplessness, that they have that sense of like, oh well, the Democrats will screw it up and Trump will somehow always emerge victorious. I one of the reasons I love that you're running is that it does show Democrats, like, you can have a spine, you can have a brain and a spine and know how to go at this guy, and you've got and you don't have to feel afraid to go out and take a swing at the bad guys.
As America takes the world stage, we see greatness and we feel honor and pride. But when we see our president, we feel none of those things. He's a dangerous, delusional criminal who shreds the rules and rigs the game for himself. I've faced off with him before. Now I'm ready to take him on in Congress. I'm George Conway, and I approve this message because we need to throw Donald Trump out of the game and give hardworking Americans a shot. Right. Look at the way I look at it is this. Look, this is not a shot at the Democratic Party at all. There are Democrats who are laying it out there on the line every day. Jamie Raskin, Adam Schiff, so many others, Chris Murphy. I can't name them all. But there is still just kind of an inertia. There's just an inertia of like, oh, well, we don't have the votes. Let's see what we can, look, they're on the right track, for example, in voting down the ICE and DHS funding, which I think they just did.
They
actually.
did.
I think
There's
I saw
one
that.
vote earlier today that
Right.
while we're recording this, folks, on Thursday. Yeah.
And there's this talk about, well, maybe we can get some things put in the bill that will prevent ICE from doing certain things. And, that's ordinarily I'd say that's great. But the problem is it's not enough.
No.
The problem is these people, look at there's a law that says all the Epstein files that have to be produced. And basically only tiny percentage of they do not follow the law. So putting something in the law as an exchange for funding isn't going to cut it. They're going to violate the law no matter what. And I think a different mindset has to be put into place, because what Trump is doing with these succession of votes on interim funding is he's holding the government and the things that the government pays for hostage for his pet project of fascism. In other words, you're not going to get all your government goodies, and we're going to shut the government down if you don't approve, my $50 billion or whatever the hell he's asking for Bovino and company.
So I mean, I made this argument to somebody the other day who asked me about your race. I said, listen, George is a guy who knows New York really well, lived there for a long time, there now, knows the city, and also knows like how to punch back if Trump says, okay, we're not going to fund X or Y project for the city, or that they're going to, roll ICE in at whatever level. You understand his psychology and how to fight him better than anybody else that's possibly going to think about getting in this race.
Except for maybe you.
Well,
you're not here.
I'm not going to.
I'm not.
Trust me, folks. I'm not getting in the race.
That's good. We'd knock each other out.
I know, it'd be terrible. but you've got this ability, I think, to fight him psychologically and politically and legally that most people haven't really assessed. And I think in an era where his nature is so punitive about everybody who crosses him, it's vital to have somebody who can be a real fighter in the 12th.
Yeah, and a real fighter, and I mean, I think I can do that. I think I just don't give a fuck, really. I mean, he can't do anything to me. There's nothing he can do to me. And I think he kind of knows that.
Right.
And
he hasn't really come at you yet, has he?
I think he tweets shit at me, but he doesn't really know how to deal with me, because if he likes to intimidate people, and I just go right back at him.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
and he absolutely doesn't like me because I cost him $88 million in the E. Jean Carroll case,
which I love to this day.
I'm putting it on my gravestone. And the other thing about it is the way. Talk about the psychology of this, and you have to stand up to bullies.
Always.
And if you stand up to bullies in the right way at the right moment and show that there's nothing to be afraid of, that he's really just a giant, stupid, ignorant, incompetent wuss.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it all breaks down for them. And that's why you have to do it. You have to go right at them, hammer and tong. And that's always been my theory. There's also, there is psychological manipulation of him, which is actually, he's very easy. He's impossible to control, but he's easy to manipulate. And I think a lot of people who have worked for him have learned they think they can manipulate him because they know they can manipulate him, but they can't control him. But the point is, I don't have to control him. I can just manipulate him into doing things that are self-destructive, and we showing him for what who he really is. And that's what we did with the Lincoln Project. That's what I did with Psychopac in 24. We just, if I had more money in 2024 to do that, it would have been better. But we got to keep fighting. We got to keep doing it. We got to find a new way to do it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running here, is like, okay, fine.
And
I'm going to do.
I love the fact that this is a real public service thing. You don't need to do this. You don't need a job.
God.
You don't need a gig. This is just a mission for the people of New York and for the people of this country to have a fierce advocate against the most destructive president of our lifetime.
Look, I'm 62 years old. I made my career up Midtown here. I should be out skiing somewhere, like Park City or somewhere with, I had a great career. I'm perfectly happy with my financial circumstances. I don't really want to do this. I should be just watching SportsCenter and going skiing and doing all that stuff. But this is my chance to give something back to the place where I made my career.
Right.
And to the country. I feel, I just feel like if I didn't do this and I didn't do what I have done over the past several years, and 2020 with the Lincoln Project to the 2024, helping raise money for the Biden and Harris campaigns and running a super PAC against Trump. I mean, if I hadn't done all that, I couldn't live myself. I mean, it's all about,
I get it.
I just can't. The amount that this has cost me personally, financially, another whole nice dog in the background there. It's a lot, but I don't give a shit. I really do not give a shit. It's like, you only get one shot at life, and you want to make the best of it and do the best you can and do, do something right.
No, I feel you.
I spent 30 years not in a very financially rewarding job, but it was a slog. And this is my chance to do something where I feel like I'm accomplishing something, not just, and just not for self-gratification, but just, I want to do something to make things better. And that's why I'm doing this.
And I do love the symmetry of New York created Trump and New York will destroy Trump in the end.
Let it happen. May that,
I mean,
from your mouth to
that
God's
to
ears.
me is the perfect symmetry of his line of bullshit about who he was in New York versus the reality of what he's done to New York since he's become president.
Yep.
And I just think it's a beautiful story arc of comeuppance, and he has some uppance to come, I believe.
Oh my God, he's got so much uppance to come.
So you've got if you're on judiciary or oversight, obviously, I think there are some major players in this administration in cabinet positions who need to be held
Oversighted.
Overseen, oversawn, sawn in two, whatever the case is.
Yep.
But I mean, I can't imagine what you would do with a Kristi Noem or a Marco Rubio or a Tulsi Gabbard in that position. But I would make an argument that as Trump has become less mentally acute, these people have become more dangerous to the country than they would have been even in an ordinary Trump administration.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, because they have to do, two ways. I think one is they have to do more to get his attention because he's much more distracted. And secondly, they're looking out for themselves, and he is creating risk for them. So, they are vulnerable, and but at the same time, they owe him everything. And it's sort of we need to put them in the hot seat as much as possible.
And I guess the other part of this is in the course of like regular order, the president doesn't just pick and choose programs to kill in districts.
Correct.
Like the tunnel would not have been, or the would not have been ordinarily. He wouldn't have reached down and specifically tried to excise that illegally, as you point out, from the budget. There's a lot of stuff in New York with healthcare funding, with transport funding, with infrastructure stuff. All of that, I think you get to hold these people. You get to bring in the Sean Duffys of the universe onto the chair as well, and start getting into who called you from the White House, who sent that order from the president. I think that is the kind of thing that will also be a really helpful framing mechanism for the public for the 2028 election and beyond, right? Yep. Of showing how corrupt this system really has become.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole point is, as I keep saying, he's running the government like a mob operation, for the boss, of the boss, by the boss, not for the people, of the people, by the people.
Right.
And it's a lot of different things. It's a way to collect money for himself. Right. Whether it be,
crypto,
the millions of dollars to produce Amazon's bullshit movie about Melania, and or the 747 from Qatar, or the people who are giving money to this bullshit ballroom where he says he's going to hold his third inaugural, or the marble seat rests at the Kennedy Center.
Right.
I mean, this is what he wants to spend money on. And of course, ICE, $50 billion for ICE, because he wants to basically control everything, a la, have his own brown shirts,
private
and black
army,
shirts.
right.
Yeah. And private army. He wants to do all that at the expense of everything else that the government has committed legally to do money for. I mean, this is like Ukraine. The money was spent. The money was allocated. He held that back.
Yeah.
He was appropriate. He used it to try to extort Ukraine. Now he's doing this all across the board to everybody in the country. He's doing it to Minnesota. He's doing it to our allies. He's doing it to people in blue states who just want the government to reimburse them for their insurance premiums. Okay. I mean, this is a government, this is extortion. This is basically criminal. And if it's not specifically legally criminal, but I think many cases it is, it's a high crime and misdemeanor within the meaning of the Constitution,
Right.
which basically, the
Justifies
framers
removal.
and the Federalist Papers made clear that, maladministration and corruption are high crimes and misdemeanors within the meaning of the impeachment clauses. And there is nobody who has run a more corrupt government, a more self-serving government. And politicians, are not perfect, but there is nobody. It's like Nixon was a choir
boy compared to this
He was
shit.
a choir boy compared to this. Okay.
Absolutely.
I mean, who was president for the Teapot Dome? This was all the Harding administration.
Right.
These people, they are nothing compared to
Grant
this
and
criminal
Harding were
group.
not exactly pillars
Right.
of propriety, but they were like rank amateurs compared to this.
And
The
Grant
selling
was patriot.
pardons
I mean,
for $1 million a pop. I mean, for God's sake.
I mean, it's unbelievable. And if look at and from the standpoint of the rule of law, he wants to basically take the rule. He basically says that all the time.
Yeah.
We don't need elections. We don't, I don't need guardrails. Okay, no.
My own
Laws are
morality
guardrails.
is my guardrail. If you're
What?
relying on Trump's
Yes,
fucking morality,
he basically doesn't think there should be any limits on anything
Right.
he can do. And I mean, if this guy isn't impeached and removed, what's the point to basically Article 1 of the, what's the point of the whole Constitution? This is the ultimate safeguard, is that you can't have a fucking criminal running the government for his own benefit, screwing the people. And that's what we have.
I mean,
not just in one thing, everything he does.
I mean,
And it's like, if we can't get rid of this fucking guy,
Yeah.
like we need to be basically ready to put ourselves to lie down on the fucking railroad track
Exactly.
to stop this. And and the impeachment clauses, that's what they're there for. And Congress, you just can't sit there and say, oh, well, let's send it to committee.
Let's
and
just
do
wait.
this
It's
and
a
do that,
political
and let's wait it
question.
out. And maybe we have the votes. Let's see how. Oh, let's talk to our political consultants and see how it polls and all that shit. It's like, no. This is your legal and moral fucking obligation.
Yes. 100%, brother. 100%.
Okay. And if you can't get that, get the fuck out of public life.
Right. If you don't understand the level and nature of the threat and the response that's required, go teach community college somewhere. Go do something else.
Well, this community colleges are nice. Let's not.
I'm
let's
not
trash them.
I'm not
Yeah,
hating on
I
community
know.
college. Folks, we're going to play you the video of George introducing his campaign, and when we come back, we're going to let George tell you where you can reach him and help support his campaign and get in touch with him on social media.
When we see it,
We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
hear it,
We will give them pardons.
read it, and feel it. We find it hard to believe, but it's real. It's happening on the streets of New York City every day. And just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. It has to stop. We must make it stop. We have a corrupt president, a mendacious president, a criminal president whose masked agents are disappearing people from our streets, who's breaking international law, and he's running our federal government like a mob protection racket. As for the economy, hey, it's great for him. Crypto, watches, golden sneakers. But for everyone else, groceries, healthcare, prices skyrocketing and millions losing coverage. And he claims now
Affordability is a hoax.
I know how to fight these people. They are corrupt, amoral people. They will stop at nothing to rig the system for themselves. I've been fighting Trump for years, and nothing will stop me. My name is George Conway. I'm the son of a high school educated Navy guy and a Filipino immigrant. I came to New York City in 1988 and built a 30-year career here as a lawyer, amongst the greatest people in the greatest city in the world. A former Republican, now a Democrat, I fought Trump publicly in every way I could. And I paid a price. I'll never regret standing up to Trump or for the victims he abused, helping E. Jean Carroll sue Trump for raping her and lying about it. Now Trump owes E. Jean $88 million. He doesn't like me. I don't like what he's done to our great country. And now I'm running for Congress to take the fight directly back to him. On your behalf. On the behalf of New Yorkers, to whom I owe so much. To protect the fundamental rights and basic economic needs of all New Yorkers. To make our nation better than it was before. To write new laws that will safeguard our democracy so that we don't end up facing autocracy ever again. This is no ordinary time, and I will not be an ordinary member of Congress. Let's do this together.
Okay, George, thank you so much for coming on the Lincoln Project podcast today, brother. I appreciate you as always, my friend. Tell folks where they can get you on social media and how they can reach your campaign.
Well, on social media, I'm GT Conway the Third on on X. I'm also on Blue Sky, and I'm on Threads, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook.
All the things.
And all the things, and Substack. And the most importantly, though, because I'm 62 years old, and I've never even thought of running for public office until a few weeks ago, and now I'm in candidate 101 school, and I have these people like professionals like you training me how to do the candidate thing. And the thing they tell me to do, that is always say at the beginning and end of every podcast, I didn't know the beginning, www.georgeconwayforcongress.com.
There you go.
www.georgeconwayforcongress.com.
That's
www.georgeconwayforcongress.com. Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
All right.
Terrific. Thank you, my friend. That was terrific. Delighted to be with you today, and absolutely delighted to have my good friend Fred Wellman with us today. Fred is a Lincoln Project alumni, a guy who served this country honorably for decades in the U.S. Army, and he is also running for the 2nd Congressional District in the great state of Missouri. And he is going up against Ann Wagner, who is about as dynamic as a bucket of concrete. Fred, thank you, man, for coming on, and congratulations for jumping into this race. I know it is important to get out there, and people have to learn your story. So tell us Fred Wellman's story so that we understand not only who you are, but what's motivating you to run in this race at this time.
First, there was a big bang. No, I guess we'll start at the end first. Anger.
Yeah.
I mean, why am I running? I honest to God, I did not plan to run. Well, I'll start there, then I'll tell my story. I was sitting around last July doing my thing. I've got my show on democracy, as we mentioned there. I've been doing my thing. I got a good life here in Wildwood, Missouri. Beautiful fiance. I moved back to my hometown for. And as I watched the big billionaire bill being debated, if you remember the split screen, and a lot of people didn't notice this, but the House passed it, and it went to the Senate, and the Senate wanted to cut more, if you remember. There was not enough SNAP cut. There was not enough healthcare cut. And they stayed to the weekend to argue that, right? But do you remember the split screen, Rick? The split screen was Jeff Bezos's $56 million wedding in Venice, right?
Yeah.
And so the celebrities and the billionaires are waving at us poors,
Right.
And the split screen, the other side, just like this screen, was senators debating how much more they're going to screw Americans.
For America's struggling billionaire class.
Right. And the final straw for me, and my son, Hunter. Hunter worked with us. Hunter was a bartender last year. 27 years old, likes video games, but he was a full-time bartender at a local restaurant in where he lives in Virginia. Very successful restaurant. They didn't get healthcare. And so when Hunter went into the ACA window last year to get ACA help, which I was happy to help him do, he qualified for Medicaid. Now, my son. Is Hunter lazy?
Oh,
Does he lay around on the couch
That is
playing
not a
video
lazy
games, right?
kid.
No. And I'm like, okay, so here these guys are, including my elected officials here in Missouri, saying, oh, we got these lazy 20-year-old men laying on couches playing video games, getting free health care. And I got mad. And so why St. Louis? I grew up here. I grew up in Kirkland, Missouri, which is a small suburb of St. Louis. And I went to public high school. I went to public schools. I graduated. All my siblings went to University of Missouri, Mizzou, as we call it here. And I rebelled. I went to West Point. I'm obviously bad at rebelling.
All those counterculture hippies at West Point.
I'll show you. So anyway, I suck at rebelling. So I went to West Point. I got lucky. I got in, and I was able to serve my country. As you know, I was commissioned as an Army aviator. I spent 20 years in the Army. I flew OH-58 Scouts in the background here, and I went to war 4 times. I did Desert Storm as the Air Scout platoon leader with the 24th Infantry Division. I ended up taking a brief break in service in 2000 and got mobilized in 9/11 and volunteered to come back in.
Right.
So I did another 3 Iraq tours after that with the 101st Airborne and other units. And then I retired in 2010 out of the Pentagon and started a firm called Scoutcoms, helping veterans and military families connect with services, corporations connect with nonprofits, just sort of being that individual in the middle. We were a benefit corporation. I was very proud of the work we did. Worked with a lot of the partners that we work with at Lincoln Project, Vote Bets and that is responsible leadership. The big New Warrior Project, Home Depot. I was very proud of the work we did. And then you might remember 2020 was a cataclysmic year for everybody.
Yeah, that did not work out well for anybody, anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, and there's this whole global pandemic thing, and we of course got caught up in that. I was very over leveraged with nonprofits at the time, and I got this call to run a field hospital in New York. A friend of mine was running it. They called up folks to come to New York to run field hospitals, and a bunch of veterans were going up there, and I got asked if I would come kind of run things, and I did. I ran a field hospital in New York. And our friend Steve Schmidt reached out to say hi because he heard the news. And I said, Steve, I'd worked with Steve previously. I said, hey, I'm probably going to close Scout down. Scout comes down. He said, yeah, come work for us. And I said, Lincoln Project? He goes, yeah. I said, doing what? Veterans. So I ended up with you guys.
Yeah.
Lincoln Project as the senior advisor for Veterans Affairs. Of course, I handled all of our veterans pillar. We did, gosh, what do we do? Now we did Facebook groups.
Oh my God. Yeah.
commercials,
There's so much outreach like crazy.
Sully Sullenberger. Yeah, it was a great ride. And then, of course, you remember I took over as executive director after the election, did that. You know, we had a challenging year. We ran that. And then I went to go on my own. I helped folks like Marcus Fires run against Marjorie Taylor Greene. In the midst of all that, I'd met a beautiful woman. You remember Heather.
I do.
And
Lovely.
Heather's from my hometown. And you guys know we're both senior gentlemen who've had third, fourth chance at life.
Yes, we did.
And,
yes, we are lucky bastard. We're the lucky bastards club.
Exactly.
My friend.
Well beyond our means as far as
way up. Way up.
So Heather's from my hometown, St. Louis, Missouri. And we dated long distance. And she said, look, man, you got to come home. You should come home to your hometown. So I moved back to St. Louis 4 years ago. I was still working at Lincoln Project, and I got involved. And I helped local politics. I helped local nonprofits. I helped international refugees, and they came here from Afghanistan. And then that yada yada yada. I got mad, bringing us to the beginning of the question.
Fred, and folks, I just want you to know, Fred is one of these people that when somebody says, who will go, Fred's the first guy in the line saying, send me. I mean that, folks. Fred, Ann Wagner, who is the Republican incumbent there, has been in that seat for God knows how many decades now.
13 years.
I think I remember when
years.
she ran the first time, and
2012.
I still had hair. It's been a long haul.
Yeah.
But she basically is disconnected from the district now. And I've heard this even before. I remember when you were thinking about doing this, you and I talked a little bit.
Yep.
And I remember thinking, I can remember Ann running, but what the hell has she done since then? And it's just been a giant, like, what does Trump want? I'll vote for it.
That's it. And it's I call them wallpaper representatives.
Right.
They're people who say no. I mean, when I reached out to some friends of mine who are elected officials, I'll leave them nameless, who are Congress members, who are active members of Congress, and even relatively bipartisan members of Congress. And I reached out, I said, I'm thinking about running as this lady, Ann Wagner, and they had to look her up. And I remember one guy saying, I think I went to Israel with her like 2 years ago. I mean, she does a masterful job of fading into the woodwork and running on tribalism to get reelected every 2 years.
Right.
And that's it. She is the banker's best friend in Washington. This is a person who's never held a town hall. It's funny because her new messaging is it's too dangerous. She's never held an open town hall once in 13 years.
Just hours ago, protesters asking one question loudly: where is Congresswoman Ann Wagner? She represents Missouri's 2nd Congressional District. And our Kimberly Donahue spoke with constituents and those fighting for her seat about what they expect from their representative in Congress.
A crowded corner at Manchester and Weidman Sunday afternoon, filled with voters from Missouri's 2nd Congressional District, calling out Congresswoman Ann Wagner, saying they want to see more communication from her.
She is our direct line to Washington, and she is refusing to be accountable for her party's lack of action and abdication of their duty. And I would really like to have someone explain to me what's happening in Washington. And I think a lot of people out here would. With that abdication of duty means she is usurping the power of the people on this corner and in her district.
She is famous for, they call her photo op Ann in district, because she just shows up, does a picture and leaves. She doesn't announce where she's going to be. It's very carefully orchestrated.
Yep.
We've gotten very good. It's funny, all of our experience tracking Trump has made me very good at tracking Ann. And you know from Trump, you have to kind of read between the lines, right? Like, what are you really hearing here? I'll give a perfect example. So you get used to her photo ops, where she'll do a photo op for a whole day. They'll parcel the pictures out for a week. She's always in the same outfit because, they're not that clever. So a week ago, she disappeared. Like, all of her posts on social media were just words. They weren't pictures. And then her newsletter came out. So then she showed up in Washington when they got called back to Washington. And her newsletter wrote that 15th paragraph in this newsletter was, I conducted oversight of our operations in the Caribbean, targeting drug cartels. You see where this is going, right, Rick? Exactly.
Yes.
So I'm looking at it, I was like, wow, I wonder if she's tan.
I'm at the Ritz-Carlton Gustavia Harbor in St. Bart's doing oversight.
Drinking on the beach at Cabo San Lucas.
Yeah, you and I have both done Codels in the past, and I can tell you, sometimes they want to do a Codel to Bali or a Codel to the Maldives or a Codel to the Caribbean. Like, oh, we have to discuss international trade.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to
So
say
that's
the
it.
fucking
We've gotten good at reading. You got to read, but it's kind of sad that in a district like St. Louis, so the district, for those who don't know, is outside of St. Louis, Missouri. We are at the 72% of St. Louis County, out county, St. Charles. So it's a very interesting district. It's rural and suburban.
Right.
It's not city. It's not the city. And so it's not big. It's actually relatively small because some of the districts I've worked in, like Margie Taylor Greene's district, is 75
Oh my God, it's
miles,
like go north of Atlanta and then keep going to freaking Tennessee.
All the way to Tennessee. Yeah. So whereas this district is relatively tight compared, because it's a pretty high populace. But people know you. People know who you are. And I've talked to Republicans, Rick. I have to. I live in a Republican area. And they're like, we never see her. She does nothing. She is useless. And it's been some interesting conversations, and people are just frustrated. They want to be represented. And that's what I'm really running on, is like, look, we're just not being represented. You can't get hold of her. Right. She brings no money home. She'll tell city officials like, hey, the congresswoman, she wants it, just her staff. Like, she's against pork belly spending. Like, well, we need help for erosion control. Chesterfield, one of our cities, is one of the most flooded places, and it's where the Missouri River and the Mississippi are the confluence.
There's no flooding in that area. Oh my God.
Why would anyone want flood control there? Dollars. Yeah. We need federal money, and nada. So I think a lot of ways there's a frustration that's bipartisan, unusually bipartisan, which the lack of leadership we're getting. So that's a big part of why I'm running, I think. I just want to represent. I mean, it's in the title, right? It's representative.
And look, I had a friend of mine, and when I was prepping for this, I texted a friend of mine who had known her at the RNC years ago, worked for her off and on.
She was Missouri State Chair
in that window. And he replied to me, haven't thought about her for years, but she's sort of like Susan Collins without the moral center.
I mean, look, I had a guy named Rohit Chopra on my show about 3 weeks ago. If you know Rohit was the head of the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau.
Oh, yeah,
an incredible organization that was protecting veterans, protecting military members, protecting consumers. Really, I mean, God, $80 million thing for overdraft fees and stuff. And when I told him after the show, because I don't talk about the race, I said, hey, I'm running against Ann Wagner. He goes, oh my God, she's the chair of the banking services subcommittee, banking systems. And when they need something passed, they go to Ann. And you look at her record, she is the banker's best friend. When they want higher overdraft fees, they go to Ann. When they want you to, not getting your money back, they
$5
go to Ann.
ATM fees on $100 withdrawal. That's Ann.
It's that you call the law something obscure like the helping consumers, process fees.
Right.
And that sounds great. And so what we really feel here in Missouri, especially, is we're just not being represented. And look, that goes for anger on both sides. You know that. I mean,
sure.
we both been very open that we're not always happy with our leadership on the Democratic side.
Yeah.
Here in Missouri, people just want to be heard. I mean, we just had this whole redistricting fight where the Trump sent us a redistricting map. The Republican supermajority just jammed it through. So a big part of what I'm doing too, Rick, is we have 26 state house districts in my district, if you can imagine. It's a very weird state.
Wow.
I know.
You guys must have a lot. You
guys
must be like Georgia with like 600 state house seats.
Yes, like 157.
Jesus.
It's nuts. And so if we flip 3 of those, which are there's like a dozen, I think, that are flippable. We break the supermajority in the state house in Jefferson City. Same with the Senate. So I'd taken a holistic approach to this district, saying, look, we had the power here in CD2 to change the direction of Missouri in a very real way. So I've been working directly with these down ballot candidates saying, hey, if I'm in your district, you're there. If I'm having a town hall or rally, you're there.
Right.
We run at every level together because together we win. And so it's been a really unique circumstance. And I don't think we've had any do that in a while, but that's just my approach. And you know that we worked it when we were at LP. We brought in partner groups
Sure.
at the, Midas Touch,
Made friends.
VFRL. I mean, that's how it is. You have to, it's just like warfare. You don't invade a country without allies in a coalition. And
Right.
so my approach to this race is, who are my allies? Who are my partners? Labor. I just visited yesterday. I had a great, oh my God, Rick, I had the best time at the sheet metal workers, local 36
Nice.
house. Dude, you should see this training facility. $21 million training facility they built in 2011. It's incredible. I mean, and they have 300 apprentices training right now.
Let me tell you,
That's the
I
future
swear
of
to God,
America.
this is a different conversation, but I am a true believer in apprenticeship stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's incredible.
I had a friend of mine recently who was like, my kid's 22, he hates college, he doesn't want to do it anymore, and but he wants to work, I'm like, and I ended up referring him to somebody, got him into an aviation mechanics training apprenticeship, and the kid freaking loves it. He's gonna come out of this thing in 2 years making $250,000 a year. Because apprenticeships, for a lot of kids in the working who wanna go out and work with their hands, they do it in every other damn country in the world.
Yep.
I mean, in Germany, you look at somebody's LinkedIn page in Germany, and it will have an apprenticeship somewhere in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's fascinating to me, Rick, is I asked the head, Ray, I said, Ray, I was looking at their training at the time.
Yeah.
And some of them looked like they were kids. Some weren't kids at all.
No.
I said, are these kids out of high school? No, it's a high school degree or GD. But Fred, I gotta tell you right now, we got men and women who have families who are looking for a better, I mean, they come out, I think when they start the job, they're getting, I want to say $26 an hour.
Right.
Within 4 months, they get full benefits from the union.
Oh, that's amazing.
Healthcare. I mean, it is so much good there. And it's physical labor. As he
Sure.
pointed out, when we're putting HVAC systems, that's because it's hot and there's
Right.
no HVAC, right? When we're putting, it's when we're putting on our sheet metal roofs because there's no roof. I mean, so it's not easy work. I mean, men and women are really sacrificing. But if we can't fight for them, if we don't have somebody who's listening to their calls, what are we doing? And so that's sort of been my approach to everybody's like, look, I'm here to learn. Obviously, I'm not a laborer. Okay, look at me, I'm old, and, soft. But there's so much parallels between what the veterans world faces and what our laborers face.
Sure.
That I do understand the challenge. So it's, well, if nothing else, I'm having the time at least learning and getting to talk to folks I wouldn't get a chance to talk to. It's been a lot of
And I
fun.
mean, that's one of the things that I think is a great way that you're approaching this campaign is that, folks, this is a leaning Republican district.
It
And
is.
in an ordinary
Yep.
year, and when Fred had called me in an ordinary year, I would have said, brother, come on, man. But in this year, we just got the proof point that you can be a Republican plus 10 district and you're competitive in 2026 because we saw how the Republican coalition is collapsing. Because you know what? None of the rhetoric met the reality. They told veterans they were going to take care of them and they screwed them. They told businesses things were going to be a golden era and they've screwed them with tariffs. And you're in an area where tariffs are hitting people hard across
Hard.
the board.
Hard. And look, the three main professions in this district.
Mhm.
Number one, healthcare.
Yep.
Number two, manufacturing.
Oh.
Number three, business ownership. I mean, it's like a trifecta. And when I talked to people, I was out in Union, Missouri, which is one of our western parts of
Right.
Franklin County. Just beautiful. By the way, Washington, Missouri has a place called Cowan's. It's the best pie I've ever had, but that's a separate topic. So I'm out there and people are worried about losing their healthcare, but they're also worried about losing their livelihood. Ironically, one of our community hospitals is likely going to close soon, is the hospital in the suburban area on our outer loop, 270 highway, DePere Community Hospital, that I was a candy striper for in high school. I was a volunteer. The hospital that I volunteered for as a high school freshman is likely going to get closed because of all these cuts. So there's a double tap when you talk healthcare in this country, where it's not just losing my healthcare insurance and
Right.
support. I'm also losing my livelihood and my work. And so it is really a situation where many of the policies and things being implemented in Washington, D.C. are targeting this district. And look, it's the most affluent district in Missouri. The average, the median income is $99,000. That's actually high in a lot of places.
Right.
But still, my opponent made $3.6 million in the stock market in May alone.
So that was another thing I wanted to talk to you about is she's one of that club of members of Congress who actively trades on the information that she receives as a member of Congress.
It feels
And
like that.
There
Yes,
are a
it does
lot of
seem
these
so.
folks who have made absurd moves in the market that they would never in a million years know to make unless it was for inside information they're getting as members of armed services or or any number of committees. And
banking
banking, for
systems.
instance. So I mean, this seems to me to be one of the vulnerabilities that she has to answer for right off the bat. And I would
Yeah.
encourage you guys to make that a front and center issue for her, because I
Yeah.
think she is going to really have a difficult time. In the old words of Ricky Ricardo, she got some splaining to do.
According to Quiver Analytics, which is a site that tracks congressional trading, Ann Wagner has increased her net worth from $5 million when she joined to $26 million in her portfolio. Okay. So in her public service. And she doesn't trade a ton. It's all on, but it's very clever. And look, they weren't well off. They were okay before.
Yeah.
It's funny. When she started running, she lived in Baldwin, which is near where I live. More of a more of a middle,
Yeah.
More middle class neighborhood. She's moved to Town and Country, which is a beautiful area that I would kill to live in. Gorgeous houses. That's where she lives now. And one of my friends, who's a Republican, who supported most of her campaigns, he literally flipped to me. He's a cop.
Right.
But we're friends, and he's a former Marine, and I just love him to death. He said something really interesting to me one day. He said, "Fred, I got to tell you, I actually liked Baldwin Ann, but Town and Country Ann's a whole different animal." And she's moving on up to the west side, literally to the east side in this district. It's the east side of this district. And so it is a very situation where it's kind of funny, where she proudly announced she was not going to take her congressional salary during the government shutdown. That $11,000 a month is going to be set aside.
Right. I'm
You
sure.
know,
I'm
the
sure
same
she's
month,
suffering.
Last month, she made $126,000 in her portfolio. So it is a little bit. It's not a great time to be an oligarch, and so we've been talking about that quite a bit. It is, and it's just not. It's just out of. And this, by the way, Rick, I don't know if you know this. Missouri is the first state in the union to repeal the capital gains tax at the state level.
I did
50
not know
states. Just this year, they signed a law. It's blown a $600 million
Once
hole
again,
in our
America's
state
struggling
budget.
billionaire class just finally needs the help. Finally going to get the help they need.
1% of our population. Guess who's part of that 1%?
Ann Wagner. I mean, and that strikes me though as one of these things. What we saw this year was a lesson in success, because they talked about affordability, they talked about economics, they talked about things that are affecting real people, and I think that sounds to me like where you're headed in this, in a much more cohesive way than a lot of people. One of the things that, look at this district, it leans Republican, but it is not leaning so far Republican that in a year, even if this year looks like 2025 did, and I think it's going to look a lot different. I think it's going to get worse for the Republicans as we go into 26.
Like 2018.
It's got a 2018 vibe to it. It's almost got a 2010 vibe to it at this point. Because and that was on the other side of the political equation, but part of what 2010, you saw those Republicans who came out in droves in 2010 because they felt like nobody was listening to them.
Right.
And that subject then was healthcare, and the subject now is the economy. So when we look at a Republican plus 10 seat, there are ways for you to overcome this registration advantage by being out there talking not about culture war stuff or Democratic Party boilerplate, right? But by talking about the economy and affordability.
It's what drove me to run. I mean, it's a real thing for me. It's funny, and I'm very open about this.
Yeah.
And you know this because we did a hit, Free Beacon did a hit piece about me.
So join the club, man.
I should be embarrassed. And look, I'm not proud, but
right.
When I joined Lincoln Project Executive Director, they decided to drop an oppo file on us. And they wrote a story that I had not one, but two bankruptcies. I'm a total deadbeat. Well, what's the story behind those?
Right.
When 9/11 hit, I was a well-paid project management consultant in Peachtree City, Georgia, the 10th most affluent city in America. I was living right at my means. My wife at the time was a flight attendant with Delta, doing quite well. Hell, we had an A, but we were right at our means, like so many Americans. I went there because I had the best schools in Atlanta. We could get a really nice big house for my family, but we were living at our means. 9/11 hits. My flight attendant wife gets laid off immediately. Sure. I get mobilized that day in the Army, and I went to a conference at Carlisle Barracks, Pennsylvania.
Yep, National
My
War
unit
College.
decided to do me a favor, right? They said, "Hey, we're going to mobilize you, Fred. We'll take care of everything. You just go do your thing." Single zero. And for those who understand what that means is no tax deduct. They put me in. I was a father of four in an affluent neighborhood. no housing allowance, no tax deductions at all, single zero across the board, no flight pay. We lost over 50% of our pay immediately, and it never got better. It took about 3 to 5 months to get it fixed. Like a lot of Americans, train left the station.
Can't
never
make
came
it that
back.
long.
Credit cards maxed out. Savings was gone. That's all she wrote. I'm sitting in Iraq in 2003, marching to Baghdad, literally marching to Baghdad. We'd arrived at Iskandariya, which is just south of Baghdad. Baghdad had just fallen. And I'm texting my wife on her computer at our headquarters, and she went to Nashville to file bankruptcy for us with the 4 kids, right? Am I proud of that? No, but that's the story. 9/11, I'd go for the pandemic. I had business loans for my business. I got divorced from that same person, lovely person. And the same thing. Train left the station. We couldn't, but we were over leveraged nonprofits. I lost 3 clients in 1 week. The week the stock market crashed, train left the station. And I look around, and it's funny how I tell that story. That's why I never ran for office. I said, there's no way I can run for office. I have a past.
Sure.
And as I started talking to people, what instead I heard was, Fred, that's the American story right now. Look around your nice neighborhood, Rick. Cancer diagnosis, house goes into foreclosure. Guy loses his job, they have to sell the house and move to downsize. Businesses fail, they lose we are all 67% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck.
100%.
The top 10% of our country is doing 60% of consumer spending right now. Average Americans are falling. My story, instead of being unusual or bad, is the current American story.
Look,
bankruptcies right now are the highest level they've been since the pandemic, for Christ's sake.
I was just going to say,
and we're not even in a recession.
I was just going to say,
technically.
bankruptcies are spiking in down here in Florida. They're spiking all over the place. Foreclosures, roughly 50% of the mortgages in the Tampa Bay market are now profiled to be either about to go into foreclosure proceedings or are vulnerable to them if the owners miss 1 paycheck.
Holy
I mean,
that's the American story.
And
so I've been going around telling that
it's
story.
stacked against working people in
It
ways
is.
that Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and these guys and the bankers from the American Banking Association are never going to get.
Right. And they keep making it harder. I still owe taxes. I lost everything. I still owe I still owe tax on the profits for Scout Comps in 2017.
Sure.
You're never going to dig out of the hole. And that is the American story. I have a heartbreaking story. I tell it often. When I was a kid in high school, there was a family here. I won't tell their names because I'm not going to invade their privacy, but I would do it. I want to tell their story. And it was a lovely family. I worked at a country club here. I always joke, I didn't get into the member entrance. I got as the employee entrance. I was a busboy, very glamorous. And then I was a lifeguard. When I was a busboy, this lovely family had 3 beautiful daughters, went one of the most exclusive private schools in St. Louis, as many of them are. And I just had such a huge crush on one of the daughters. And the dad always took pity on me and gave me a tip. And they were just lovely people, right? Very well off, obviously. Flash forward, I go off to West Point. Years later, my mom calls me and she says, Fred, did you hear what happened to those folks? I said, what? She goes, well, the daughters and the mom came home from school one day and all their possessions were in their front yard surrounded by crime tape.
Oh, geez.
And what happened is the dad had lost his job and lied about it for about 7 or 8 months. And eventually got foreclosed on. The sheriff came in, evicted their stuff. The dad came home from wherever he was acting like he was working and killed himself in the front yard.
Ugh.
And it just strikes me, right? There's so many. And when I talk to my neighbors here, consistently men that look like you and me, Rick, older men, boomer, Gen X, I'm Gen X. The most shocking thing is how often, like even I have a very quiet neighbor, he never talks. I was talking to him about the race and his wife, and he just out of nowhere said, Fred, I was just worried about my kids. I got a kid at Columbia, and I think when he graduates, he's going to come back here. There's no job for him, and so many people who look like us are saying, I don't think our kids have the opportunity that we did 30 years ago. My dad's a GI Bill guy, first in his family to go to college. And I don't think that American dream, I mean, I literally, this is going to shock you. My oldest son works for a major corporation. And I told him I was running. He's very non-political, not. And I said, I'm running. He goes, thank God. I said, really? He goes, we need people like you. I was like, shit, I never heard you say that kind of thing before. He says, you know why, Dad? Me and my wife, we just think our purpose in life is to increase shareholder value.
Yeah.
I have a 30-year-old son with a kid. Imagine hearing that from your kids. Like, I just think my purpose in life is to increase shareholder value for some corporation. I mean, what the hell have we done? Like, I mean that we.
Not like build a stronger community, not like serve my country or my people or my town or my state.
Right. Live the American dream, become a part of the owner class myself because I was going to own a home, Not with private equities buying all the houses and driving the
Right.
prices up. It's not illegal immigrants buying houses, folks.
No,
It's
it is
private equity. Okay.
BlackRock, Blackstone, folks.
BlackRock, all these guys. And so 30% of houses last year were bought by investors. So it is, we're at a point now where our kids, the next generations, X, Z, millennial, they don't believe the American dream is a thing.
No.
They don't believe that hard work will pay off. They don't believe they could be part of the ownership class by buying a home. And now we got these guys saying, well, how about a 50-year mortgage? How about a 15-year car loan? They'll never, it's like, why don't you just call me a renter? Let's
Right.
pretend I'm an owner and
Yeah.
instead I'm just a permanent effing renter. So circling back, long answer to a short question. That's why I'm running. It is. And so affordability is a thing, but look at your kids, folks. Look
Yeah.
at what we're doing to our country. Are we truly giving these next generations the dreams that we had, the dreams of our fathers? Like I said, my father was a World War II veteran.
Mhm.
He was the first in his family to go to college on the GI Bill. All 4 of his kids went to college. Do our kids have that opportunity? I don't think they do. And we have to answer for that.
Yeah, and I think as you're running against a person who wants to pretend to be the sort of bog standard basic issue Republican,
Right.
but she's been there for an agenda during the last decade or more
Yep.
that has increasingly put working people behind the 8 ball.
Yes.
That has increasingly put people in that position. And she's one of the people in this last shutdown who was perfectly happy to watch the health insurance bills for folks in your district completely, explode by ending the ACA
Yep.
subsidies that have made it somewhat possible for some small group of people to afford a little more health care than they could have and not just show up in emergency rooms all the time.
Right. Right. And with little care. And then she plays this game of blaming the Democrats like she didn't vote for the bill.
Right.
It's cute because she won't even use the term big, beautiful bill. She uses what they call it, the middle class tax relief.
Whatever
Act
it
or
is,
some
yeah.
horse bull. Yeah. It's like, give me a break. Okay. We know what you voted for. You know what you voted for. You're not fooling anyone with these lies. And she goes these very carefully orchestrated visits and says how it's helping people, but then has no results to show for it.
Right.
And it's that thing. And then the final thing too is that I think about a lot. I was at the sheet metal workers yesterday, and we just had a battery plant in North St. Louis that was going to give 110 jobs, $400 million project, just a ridiculous number. It relied on a $200 million grant for the government that had already been previously approved and was supposed to go through. And then Trump canceled all of those.
Right.
Now that's in Wesley Bell's district, a Democrat.
Mhm.
Right? But we do have Josh Hawley and Eric Schmidt. And then, of course, my opponent, Ann Wagner, weighed in saying, hey, I'm going to weigh in on this. I'm going to help because this affects the entire St. Louis region. Because we're a region. You can't pretend just because there's a
Right.
random
The
line
arbitrary
that
boundary is an arbitrary.
it's- And so she was going to weigh in. Guess what? Nothing. It's gone.
Crickets.
The company just announced, and there's not a place in the world that needs help more than anything. It's North St. Louis. Everybody knows about North St. Louis.
Yeah.
That's where Ferguson is nearby, not
Mhm.
5 miles away. I mean, everybody knows what we need. Battery plants. We need investment. The sheet metal workers lost 400 construction jobs.
Right.
And the Republicans, yeah. And that's the thing that makes me the maddest is I call it, Harry Truman had the Republican do nothing Congress. Remember that?
Right.
Obviously, I'm a Harry Truman guy. I'm from Missouri.
Sure.
I call them the Republican doormat Congress. They are,
Yes.
it's just a place. It's a place where Trump and all of his cohorts go by, wipe their feet on their way to do whatever the hell they want. And the doormat Congress has completely walked away from their duties with Article 1. They've completely walked away from their jobs to do oversight. They've complete tariffs. That's a congressional. I mean, it's like none of them have read the freaking Constitution. You're in charge of tariffs, not Donald Trump. And they don't care. And that's a perfect example right there. They don't care. There was no way Ann was going to call Donald Trump up and say, hey, boss.
Yeah, you're screwing me over.
You're screwing my people.
Right.
These are my people. Well, he'll say, well, is that going to help Wesley Bell? Well, yes. Well, no. They don't care. And by the way, I'll bet my mangled left foot, which I had rebuilt thanks to the Army. I'll bet my mangled left foot, she didn't make that call.
No.
She didn't do anything.
No chance.
And Hawley didn't. And Schmidt didn't. Because in the end, they don't care about the people they're supposed to represent. And that circles back to what we said at the beginning. They hate us. I don't know if you saw it today. Tim Burchett from Tennessee posted a tweet. Somebody posted something about, it was probably a fake video of Trump haters who are on Snap. He says, you fat people need to get off your asses. Something like, it's like, imagine having that much vitriol for people you're supposed to represent. You're supposed to represent all Americans. The Constitution's really clear on this.
Oh, yeah.
They hate us.
Yeah,
And so,
you know, and I think that this is one of those moments where the country is signaling louder and louder every day that, you know, Donald Trump is entertaining the idea of giving OpenAI $1.4 trillion in loan guarantees. And yet, if you're a struggling small business in the 2nd District of Missouri, that's an impossibility. That's like there's no world in which that ever happens. And I think that anger that you are correctly representing is real. I mean, people are not feeling like anybody in the government is listening or gives a damn about them. And I think that is why, my friend, I think you have a real shot at making a case against Ann Wagner that is passionate and based on your life of service and based on, you know, getting it. You're in the community. She's in Washington, D.C. You're in the community every day. And that is a secret sauce to being able to, you know, outfox her on, you know, knowing what's really happening. I promise you, she doesn't know what roads need to be paved.
No, it's being present. We call it the Army presence patrols.
Presence
It
patrol, yep.
matters. It's what they call it. You know, it's neighborhood policing.
Mhm.
It matters. Being present in your community matters, and being out talking to average people, going to places you're uncomfortable. I went to a veterans barbecue a couple weeks ago, my local pub,
Right.
and it's a little MAGA, and that's okay. I had a right to be there. I'm a veteran. I did 22 effing years in the Army. Okay?
Right.
I've got 4 combat tours. I'm allowed to go. And I went, and it was fun because I
Right.
got to tell some war stories. And anytime I get to tell a war story, I'm happy.
God bless.
So I stopped at one of the barbecue. One of the guys who was a civilian. He said, and I went undercover. I didn't wear Fred
Right.
Wellman, Congress.
Right.
And I just went Fred Wellman, Army veteran. You know?
Right.
And this guy asked me, he says, "What do you do for a living?" I'm like, "Well, I'm running for Congress." He goes, "Oh, Ann Wagner." I said, he goes, "God damn, she's got to go. She doesn't do squat. She is worthless. I've tried calling her about issues. She doesn't answer." I said, "Yeah, I agree." He goes, "You're running Republican, right?" I said, "No, I'm a Democrat." He goes, "Oh, man." Because I can't vote for a Democrat. I said, "Why?" He goes, "Look, man, I'm pro-life." I said, "Look, I was raised Catholic." He goes, "Yeah, I'm Catholic." I said, "I was raised Catholic. I get it. I do get it." But we both agree that Ann Wagner has to go. She's not representing you. Partisan aside, she's not representing you. So here's what I think you should do, brother. When you go in that voting booth in November, it's going to be me versus her. And when you look at those 2 names, you got one who's going to represent you and one you know ain't.
Right.
Just for that one time, hit that D, buddy.
Yep.
And here's the kicker. Here's the best part. If I suck, you can fire me in 2 years.
Right.
In just 2 years, not even 4 years. 2 years. I got to reapply for this job every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
And you don't have to change parties. You two got to change that. And look, I'll probably be vulnerable. I'll be a freshman congressman.
Yeah.
You know,
And you know what?
you know what?
I
I'll be the
think
number one target.
I think one thing that you know, when people bring up the culture stuff like that, and that is especially in your part of the country, a bit of vulnerability for some Democrats.
Sure.
You know, reminding him that what's really pro-life is also making sure little kids have insurance, making sure families have food.
Yep.
Making sure
we don't attack
Yeah.
children's hospitals.
Yeah,
You know?
so
Well, and so I said we can agree on these things, but we also have to agree we're supposed to be represented. We all have to agree that when you pick up the phone, your congressman is going to answer. That when the road's falling apart because it doesn't have federal dollars that are going to handle. I talked to a small town mayor, and he's Republican, but you know we're one of those states that the local positions are nonpartisan.
Right.
But hey, you know. And I was talking to this mayor, and I said I was running for Congress. He saw my card. He says it says Democrat. I'm running as a proud Missouri Democrat.
Right.
And that's a key. And I said, "Look, I'm running as a Missouri Democrat." He says, "Oh, huh." I said, "But let me tell you this. Here's my question for you, Mr. Mayor. What does the perfect congressperson look like to you? Like if you could build the representative that represents you and your city and your many constituents, it's one of our largest towns, what would that look like?
Mhm.
And then what do you need?" And he sat back, he goes, "Fred, I need infrastructure. You know, we're on a floodplain. I can't expand my city if the feds don't come in and put in the infrastructure like
Right.
dikes and you know,
You're gonna
and
lose
levees and build major road construction options like to go through hills because we're the foothills of the Ozarks here.
Mhm.
People don't realize it's a very hilly area.
Right.
We're literally the Ozarks and my district." And I said, "Great. Could you get that now? Do you get that now?" And he laughed. He goes, "You know, I don't." I said, "I know you don't because I've been told by other city council members that they don't." I said, "So can I sit down with you and learn about what you need?" He said, "Yeah, let's meet in 2 weeks."
Awesome.
So when you put partisanship aside, when you put culture wars aside and say, "Look, what do you need?" the whole conversation changes.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope to do. That's what I want to do as a representative. I'm not running to be representative of the Democrats. I'm not being elected by the Democrats. I'm being elected, hopefully, by the Missouri 2nd Congressional District.
Right.
750,000 people who have different needs. And if somebody asked me, a political reporter says, well, Josh Hawley has a good idea, a good bill, would you work them? Yeah, because I'm being elected by the people of Missouri. And even a blind squirrel gets a nut every now and then.
Yeah.
And
Hawley has lately been leaving the reservation a little bit.
Weird, right?
He was off the reservation on Snap.
Yeah.
Which I was.
Yeah, and this RICO. So we have a thing here. I don't mean to take. I know you got the sidetracked, but with this, people don't realize Missouri, St. Louis was part of the Manhattan Project. They processed the uranium here.
I know.
In Weldon Springs. It's shocking story. People are shocked to find out. What the shocking part is, they literally dumped barrels of radioactive waste in local dumps in creeks, which then, of course, leaked into local. We have streams going by elementary schools that are effing radioactive still. You can't make this shit up.
I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's classic U.S. government.
It is. It's classic government. And so to his credit, Josh Hawley pushed a bill called the RICO, R-E-C-O, to get this radioactive waste, get some environmental stuff done, compensate the people who are getting these bizarre cancers just because they live near a stream. And it's a good bill. And he got criticized by Republicans because, believe it or not, it was too much money for those people. It was too expensive to help people who got cancers from their government's miscreants, malevolence. I'll say malevolence.
Yeah.
He got, look, and the funny part of that story is Ann Wagner, when it passed, actually posted online, tried to take credit. And Hawley himself smacked her ass down saying, sister, you don't get credit for the group project you didn't show up for, right? You don't get to come in and at the end of the group project and say you did it.
Right.
And that's classic Ann Wagner. She didn't lift a finger, but she wants credit for the good things that happen.
Yep.
And I'm not that guy. You know me better than anybody.
For sure.
I work, buddy. I'm going to put the work in.
Folks,
it's like,
Fred, I want to say,
talking
folks,
a lot.
Fred Wellman is a guy, when he tells you he's a worker, Fred is a guy who will be busting his ass. You elect Fred Wellman to this seat, he will bust his ass for the people of the 2nd District. I know this because I know Fred. I've known him for 5-6 years now. We've been around the block together on a number of things, and he is a guy who will really, really put his heart and soul into this thing. And Fred, we will have you back on the show as we go through this.
I love that.
It's going to be crazy. Best of luck. We're going to put some information for you on the screen about Fred's
Don't forget,
campaign
I'm a politician now, Rick. I got to say what the website is.
Go do it. We're going to put it on the screen, but I'm going to let you
I
also
will get raked over the I have people who are watching me. Don't hurt me. No, they're not here. Are they in the room with you now, Fred?
Are the voices telling you to
Wellman 4MO. Yeah, Wellman 4MO. And look, I'm not going to lie. Ann's got $3.74 million in the bank. This is an up. Look, it's up. However, the good news is we come out of gate strong because I am blessed to have been associated with organizations like yours and others and Midas Touch and Vote Vets who have been coming through the roof. We are in the hunt. We've already raised $250K, which is a nice start for a first time candidate. But I need you. I need folks to come out. I mean, look, $5, $10. It is going to be a fight, but we have got a great plan. It's an all-encompassing plan. It's not just going to be media. It's going to be an army of volunteers. I don't know if you saw this, Rick. I don't know if you saw it, but we decided to have, this is how good the team I've hired is. I said, hey, let's have a food drive. 4 days on November 1st. They put together a food drive with 10 other candidates and elected officials, those down ballot state candidates I love so much. 2 state senators, a couple of elected House reps, and we raised 4,386 pounds of food in 2 hours. 2 hours.
That's like a tractor trailer.
Food. It's 3 loads, 3 van loads at the food pantry. They were blown away. So that, by the way, was 35 volunteers. And so that's what we're doing. We're putting our volunteers to work for the community. I want people to see this is what actual representation is supposed to do for you. And if we could do that as a candidate, imagine what we could do as an elected official. So Wellman for MO, all the help I can get would be appreciated. And
all right, folks, I'm supporting Fred. I hope you will too. Let's get going.
There have been Wellmans running the sound of the gun for this country even before it was a country. First, in the French and Indian War. Then, my grandfather, an Army Air Corpsman in World War I. My dad, a World War II Marine who moved to St. Louis with my mom to pursue their American dream. And then me, a kid from Kirkwood who grew up watching fighters fly in and out of Lambert Field, dreaming of becoming a military pilot. And I did. I graduated West Point, became an Army aviator just in time for Desert Storm. And I saw the damage of war way too close. When my wife, 7 months pregnant, died in a car crash, I thought my life's over, even before it's begun. But I wasn't done yet. I did 3 tours in Iraq, came home, started over. fighting for veterans benefits, heading up a COVID field hospital, organizing volunteers and donations for refugees. I lost everything again during the pandemic, but I never stopped giving back to the place that raised me and the people who feel forgotten by our government and absolutely disrespected by our Congress member. You know, Ann Wagner doesn't even try. 13 years in Washington, she's not come back to do one town hall, too busy hitting refresh in her stock portfolio. Wagner clipped $3 million in 1 month, profiting off the same companies she's supposed to be overseeing in Congress. At the same time, she voted to cut our health care, hike our insurance premiums, and gut medical research that supports a heck of a lot of jobs around here. And the only thing she's done on prices is drive them up higher. See, insiders like Ann Wagner, they think we're suckers. They bail out the billionaires and they screw over the rest of us. I'm Fred Wellman, and I'm running for Congress because we deserve a fighter for regular people who work their butts off to put food on the table and gas in the tank. Somebody who gets the challenges you face every single day, because hell, I face them too. I've lost everything in my life twice, and our communities have lost too. But you don't give up, we just fight harder. I'm asking you to join me because I'm not done yet, you're not done yet, and Missouri is not done yet. Let's get to work.
All right. Thanks again, Fred. And thanks for everybody for listening to the Lincoln Project podcast. As always, you can catch me on Tuesday nights on the strategy session, Thursday nights on the breakdown, Fridays on Behind the Numbers. I've got 17 podcasts, 47 different places where I write stuff. You know the drill. Like and subscribe, feed the algorithm. Let's go get them.
Good night and good luck.